Okay, so a quick talk on Esther, who I have referred to as the queen in the sheets, the queen between the sheets. And I don't mean that to be derogatory or controversial or shocking, but I think that it addresses something that maybe we as the Christian women, married women, maybe we have advocated our portion of discussing the role that a woman plays in the marriage to her husband and being okay with the fact that beauty, brains, and mastery in the bedroom is actually a positive thing for marriage relationships. So, what can we do? What can we take from this story of Esther? Um, I'm going to summarize things, but please go and read the whole book of Esther. She just like rocks my socks. Initially, Esther is taken into the harem as a young virgin, among many other young virgins, to spend a year getting beauty treatments to audition in the bedroom for the king. Now, regardless of whether he loved her and made her queen or whether she wasn't, uh, uh, she would have remained in the king's harem for the rest of her life. So this was a commitment regardless. And when she first enters the harem under the eunuch Haggai, the first thing that happens is Haggai is like, I dig this chick. Like, she's super cool. She rises in the ranks. He gives her her portion of food. He gives her ladies in waiting from the king's palace. He gives her cosmetics. And he gives her the best spot in the harem. What is it about Esther? What is it about her? Her name in the original language is Star. She's a star. Very interesting. And what we know about her is she can't just be a pretty face. I mean, she must have been striking. Don't get me wrong. But I've met many beautiful people that I don't want to spend more than an hour with. But there's something about Esther, and she just gains favor wherever she goes. People just like Esther. I think about the scripture that tells women not to be as concerned with their outer adornment and their jewelry and their clothing and fine clothing, but to clothe themselves with a gentle and kind and quiet spirit. And I just have to believe that to rise to this position in culture, number one, she must have had a humble, kind, and gentle spirit. Number two, she's beautiful. Number three, I bet she was funny. Like, she was probably hilarious. And number four, she was really wise. Look at what happens. I can't remember if it's chapter 4. I think it's probably chapter 2 or 3. I have my Bible here, but my computer's sitting on it. That's horrible. But I think it's chapter 2 or 3. But when she goes for her audition for the king, remember that she's a virgin. She has never done this before, and she has a staunch competition. There are other virgins, okay? This king is not unfamiliar with women. He has a harem, and I think that my study guide says at least 250 women were probably a part of the king's harem. And you didn't see the king again unless he called you by name. So you had to make an impression. Esther knows that this is extremely important. And she has never done this before. It says that she asks the head eunuch for advice. What do I take with me? My guess is she didn't just ask for advice. If Esther was really as smart as I think she was gathering as much intel from these other women or these people on how to either impress the king or to perform well in the bedroom for him before she went. Because what happens? She has her audition. She's called into the king for the evening, and he loves her more than any other. Like, she has gained a lot of favor in his sight, and automatically he puts the crown on her head, and then he throws a giant party, and this is all a great big celebration. So I have to believe that Queen Esther was not only compelling outwardly, humble, quiet, and gentle inwardly, but also that she was cunning. She was just smart. She was just, I think we would have been best friends. Moving on. So that's something that we can take away from Esther. She actually found that, or she actually used, I'm saying that wrong. She knew that sex was going to be incredibly important for this role. And she went to excel for it. And I want to just talk to us women here. If you're in a healthy marriage, I'm not talking about outliers here, but if you and your husband are both working towards having a healthy and exciting and amazing marriage, we as Christian women cannot abdicate this space to the world and to the enemy, because what the world and the enemy have done to this amazing gift of sex that God gave to us as married people, to make the two become one, where the act is about both parties involved and not just a single person's gratification. What the world has done has taken it and cheapened it, made it casual, made it violent, and made it widely available. And I think that because we are not talking about this because it's uncomfortable, we are actually doing a detriment to our marriages, because this can be a very, very incredible portion of your married life. Women, do you know what to do to please your man in the bedroom? Is this a portion of your marriage that you have set to the side? Now, listen, I was a mom of two little ones before too, and I understand the fatigue. I understand that there are things that happen. I'm not talking about people who have physical barriers in the way. Like, don't listen to this and get your hackles up because you think this has to be perfect. But have you as a woman made it a priority to please your man in this way? Or is this something that you set aside and you think of as less important? I think when we look at Esther here, it was all important. I mean, her competition was huge. This king was no stranger, and yet she was a virgin, and she made such an impression on him that he put the crown on her head. And I wonder, do we put as much effort into pleasing, surprising, and keeping that portion of our marriage alive? I don't know that I do it all that well, but I think it's important that even if you're not into it, like even if you're tired, making the effort to do that for your husband is important to him. Like, what if you imagined your husband as your king, you know? So I think that that's something we can pull from Esther. She was super cool. And then fast forward, okay? So we get to the end of the story. Of course, she is going to make a plea for her people and for her own life, because Haman has it out for the Jews, and now there's going to be this whole genocidal event where everybody's allowed to take the lives of any Jew and plunder their goods, right? And so Esther tells Mordecai to tell his friends to fast. She tells her ladies in waiting, and they fast. And then she gets dolled up, because when she walks into this room, if the king doesn't extend the scepter to her, she dies. This is a very important moment. And she doesn't come in her sweatpants and her PJs. Okay? She does herself up, and she makes an impression when she walks into the room. Of course, we know that she lives through the encounter, but he is so impressed with her, and he is so honored that she came to him in such a fashion that right then, he promises her up to half of his kingdom, doesn't he? And tell me what it is that you want, Esther. I will grant your request up to half of my kingdom. Okay, that's an impression. Homegirl was looking fine. She picked her best dress and a nice pair of earrings. Okay, and what Esther does, I mean, I think many of us in that position would immediately go to, okay, well, this is what I want. Fall at the feet and beg the king for your life and the life of your people. No, Esther waits, because it's been a month since they have been together. So she is aware that she needs to rekindle this relationship and remind the king of why he married her in the first place. I don't know if he found a new pet in the harem. I don't know what happened, but he hadn't called on her in 30 days. So instead of going straight for the jugular, she says, she speaks his love language. She says, come to a feast that I'm preparing for you and Haman. And he's like delighted. This king, we know from chapter 1, loves to feast. So he and Haman come to her feast. They do the feast thing. He's drunk and happy, and he says, oh my gosh, Esther, please tell me what it is that you want. I will grant your request up to half of my kingdom. Now, she could have gone right there. She could have just told him what she needed. No, she says, come to another feast that I'm going to have for you and Haman tomorrow. So she is really laying it on she is filling up his cup. And I can guarantee you that Haman might have gone home, but the king sure didn't. If you know what I mean, you got to read between the lines here, because a man wrote these stories. If there was a woman in here writing this book, it would be filled with a lot more detail of things that I want to know. But it didn't. But I can just imagine in real life, the king has just had this amazing feast, and Esther's made this great impression. He did not go home. And Esther knew that he was not going to go home. This is a great day for him. And so he either stayed the night or she came back with it. Something there. That's the intent. They have now had a couple days consecutively where she is wining and dining him, where she is filling up his cup and reminding him why he chose her to be queen in the first place. So now we get to the following day. It's the last feast that so he's feeling ownership. He's feeling that protection over her. And that's when she drops the bomb. But I think that we can learn something from Esther in being patient and making sure the love tank of our spouse is full. I don't know. I think sometimes we're, at least in I should speak for myself and not for other women. At least in my own time, there are things that are very important to me that seem like they are lower on the totem pole, maybe, for my husband. And one of the best ways to reach his heart and to make what's a priority for me also a priority for him is to serve him. Does that make sense? And I'm not necessarily talking sex here. I'm talking about when my husband feels as though our relationship is full, the cup is full. Maybe it's making dinner for him. Maybe it's making sure that he has clean laundry. Whatever it is that your husband's love language is, whatever it is that builds him up. Those are the kinds of things you need to be doing regularly, because what you'll notice is if you become a stronger wife and you fill up his love cup more often, as long as he is a decent man, I mean, the immediate desire is to fill your cup back up too. I just noticed that that's a pattern. So whether or not you're feeling it in the moment, fill up his love cup. And then you'll notice that he takes a bigger interest in the things that are meaningful to you. I'll give you an example. It is a huge blessing to me when my husband takes the kids to school. I mean, it's just, I love it when he's like, you know what? You stay home. I'm going to take the kids to school this morning. Because that gives me, I don't have to leave the house. And that's this whole round trip thing. And I just get to, my morning is more quiet. And I love that. But what I find is when I've been working really hard at the house and making sure that all the things that he likes are in the place and done the way that he likes them, he will do those things that he knows mean a lot to me. He'll tell me, I want you to take the night off after you get done with work and then go meet with one of your girlfriends and go out to dinner. And then he'll hand me $20 to go do it. Those are the kind of things that fill back up my love cup. And he does that because his is full. It's just a lot easier to work it that way. But anyway, read Esther. Think about what kind of a bombshell she must have been, not just physically, but personality-wise. And we know that God's favor, of course, was upon her. We know that God had his hand in this whole thing, even though he's never mentioned in the book. But he created Esther with that kind of alluring quality, that amazing character and intense beauty, so that she would win the favor of those that she was around. Just an amazing story. And I thought that I would touch a little bit because marriage has been a really big growing point for me in the last couple years. The focus on my marriage and having a godly marriage and what does it look like to be a godly wife? Because I cannot change or manipulate my husband. But if I become a better version of what I'm supposed to be as his helpmate, I notice that it creates a better version of my husband merely by default. Like he doesn't even have to try. He just becomes a better husband. And it's not because I nagged him. Can you imagine if Esther tried to nag this king? Like Esther was not going to get her way by whining and nagging at the king. This king had the power to kill her when she walked into that room. That is not the kind of person that you come in whining and nagging. She did not have that role effectually in his life. And so by submission and by humility and by speaking his love language, she filled his cup up and she felt comfortable enough to ask him, even though he was willing to offer her in the beginning. I don't know. I just think she's brilliant. And I can't wait to meet her in heaven. I think that's going to be super cool. I hope that this was good for you. It's 15 minutes. It's super long. Leave a comment if you've got anything to expound upon in this. But I really believe that we as Christian women should be willing and able to talk about these kinds of subjects with one another. If you're a man watching this, I don't know what's in it for you, but I hope it's helpful. You're welcome to comment also. And please know that I'm not talking about marriages that are on the fringe. If there's abuse or other things that are happening between you and your husband, this is not a call for you to change or bend or manipulate anything. This is speaking to women in healthy situations, in healthy marriages. Okay, it's good to be back. Missed y'all.